thank you for tuning into our channel. Please hit that like button if you like anime. Please subscribe and share with others so we can continue to grow and entertain you better. Now back to the show.
Above the bustling streets of Universe 13, hidden within the crystalline towers of their celestial realm, the angels of Universe 13 gathered in their sacred hall. Pillars of polished, obsidian stone stood tall around them, casting shadows over the ethereal space. The air was thick with tension, for the once unshakable angels were troubled after watching the fierce Saiyan warrior, Goku, unleash his power in the tournament. A lingering silence settled before Dominic, one of the council's strongest, spoke up, breaking the unease that had settled among the group. His voice was low, dismissive, and cold, as he watched the flickering replay of Goku's recent victory over the devil demon Rakus. Dominic, this Saiyan is not as powerful as he appears. Don't you see? He's running on adrenaline alone, and that can't last forever. He will fall, he's going to go down soon enough. An angel with sapphire-colored eyes, Tila, shook her head, her hair shimmering faintly as she moved. Though wary of Dominic's arrogance, her voice was tight with anxiety. Tila, he may fall eventually, but what if he doesn't fall soon enough? Have you forgotten that Lord Zeno watches this tournament personally? If we lose, there may be no eventually for us. Lord Zeno has destroyed entire universes for less. A hush fell over the hall as the angels exchanged tense glances. They were aware of Zeno's terrifyingly unpredictable nature, and the thought of displeasing him was enough to bring even the proudest angel to unease. Dominic's eyes narrowed, dismissing her concern. Yes, Zeno's wrath is possible, but not inevitable. He smirked, his confidence unwavering. I have thought of a contingency plan, in case this doesn't go as planned. Tila raised an eyebrow, her expression suspicious. And what plan would that be, Dominic? Dominic's voice lowered, his tone conspiratorial. You seem to forget, we have our own Saiyan forces. Saiyans that conquered entire planets for us. And if need be, they will join the fight as our final line of defense. A murmur rippled through the group. Dominic's plan was risky, but the angels saw the spark of hope in it. If they could use their enslaved Saiyan warriors as a shield against Zeno's wrath, perhaps their universe could still stand a chance. Chapter 4, The Desert Ambush. In a flash of brilliant light, Vegeta descended from the skies like a falling star, landing on the barren, sun-scorched sands of a desert plain. The light surrounding him flickered, twisting and reforming into a gleaming crystal orb that floated gently into his hands. Vegeta clenched it, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the desolate landscape. The air was dry, the heat from the sun scorching down relentlessly on the cracked earth. Cliff walls rose high on either side, their jagged edges casting long, dark shadows across the ground. Vegeta looked around, noting the eerie stillness. There was nothing but sand, rocks, and the distant call of desert birds echoing through the air. Vegeta, thinking aloud, where the hell am I? His voice echoed back, bouncing off the cliffs and resonating through the empty expanse. The repetition of his words made him pause. He turned his gaze toward the direction of the echo and squinted. In the far distance, just beyond the maze of cliffs, he could make out the faint outline of a city, its buildings like tiny specks shimmering in the heat haze. For a moment, Vegeta considered flying straight to the city. But then, something instinctual told him to walk instead, to survey the area and take in the unfamiliar terrain. There was something in the air, a tension he couldn't quite place, but it felt like a prelude to conflict. As he walked, the crunch of sand beneath his boots was the only sound in the vast emptiness. He approached the cliff walls, his senses alert to any sign of movement. Just as he passed a particularly tall outcrop, a small avalanche of rocks tumbled down, clattering loudly at his feet. He looked up sharply, eyes narrowing. Standing above him, silhouetted against the bright sky, was a figure, a shadowy outline that seemed almost like a mirage in the desert heat. Suddenly, more heads began to appear, peeking over the edge of the cliff on both sides. Vegeta's smirk turned into a scowl. Vegeta, grumbling to himself, "Damn it, I should have flown, but then again, this might be a good warm-up. Let them know I'm here." The figures above moved with a calculated haste, setting something up. He could sense their energies, chaotic and undisciplined. Outlaws, likely, waiting for anyone foolish enough to wander into their territory. A voice called down from above, rough and mocking. "Outlaw leader, hey, you down there. This is a toll road. If you want to get past, you're going to have to pay up." Vegeta looked up, unimpressed, his arms folding across his chest. "Vegeta, humph. And if I don't? What then?" The outlaws snickered amongst themselves, their leader flashing a wicked grin. "Outlaw leader, then you pay with your life, stranger." In an instant, several of the bandits unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, the beams raining down like a meteor shower. The explosion kicked up a massive cloud of dust and debris, filling the air with a thick, suffocating smoke. The ground shook from the impact, and shards of rock scattered like shrapnel. The leader smirked, peering down into the smoke-filled crater below. "Outlaw leader, ha! That should teach anyone stupid enough to ignore our toll. Now, boy, go check if that carcass has any pockets left for us to loot." One of the younger outlaws hesitated before leaping down into the crater, his boots landing heavily on the fractured stone. He squinted through the settling dust, expecting to find a charred corpse. Instead, his eyes went wide with shock. Vegeta stood there, completely unharmed, the smoke swirling around him like a dark cloak. His armor was unscathed, his expression one of simmering anger. He slowly raised his head, his piercing gaze locking onto the young bandit, who stumbled back in fear. "Young outlaw, be boss. He's still alive. He's not even scratched." The leader's laughter cut off abruptly, replaced by a stunned silence. He peered over the edge, disbelief painted on his face. "Outlaw leader, what? Impossible. No one survives a blast like that." Suddenly, there was a loud boom and a BAM from below. Screams of pain echoed up the cliffs as Vegeta moved in a blur, his fists striking with devastating precision. He took out two of the outlaws in a split second, their bodies sent flying across the desert floor. Vegeta looked up, eyes narrowing as he spotted the leader's stunned face peeking over the edge. Without a word, Vegeta extended his hand, a small but intensely bright ki blast forming in his palm. He aimed at one of the bandits standing on the opposite cliff side from the leader. "Vegeta, with a smirk, you should have picked a different target." With a flick of his wrist, he fired the blast. It streaked across the sky, slamming into the bandit with a thunderous explosion. The force of the blast sent chunks of rock and debris flying, the shockwave powerful enough to send several of the outlaws on the cliffs scrambling for cover. The leader, now visibly sweating, watched in horror as the blast obliterated one of his men in an instant. The outlaw leader's bravado evaporated, replaced by a primal fear. "Outlaw leader, what are you? How are you this strong?" Vegeta chuckled darkly, stepping out of the crater with an aura of confidence that radiated danger. "Vegeta, I'm the Prince of all Saiyans, and I'm here to send a message." He paused, his expression hardening. "Consider this a warm-up before the real fight begins." The remaining outlaws, shaken by the sheer power Vegeta had displayed, hesitated. They glanced between each other, their initial arrogance crumbling under the weight of Vegeta's overwhelming presence. Vegeta simply smirked, taking a step forward, causing them to flinch back in fear. The outlaw leader gulped, the reality of their situation sinking in. With a single opponent standing before him, an opponent that had shrugged off their strongest attack without so much as a scratch, he realized just how outmatched they truly were. Vegeta cracked his knuckles, his expression one of pure disdain. "Vegeta, now, Who's next? The desert was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the rustling of wind over the sands and the muffled whimpers of the outlaws who realized too late that they had crossed the wrong Saiyan.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more DBZ Multiverse 16.